In all honesty, as much as I love drinking Notre Dame tears right now, it's hard for me to, if we're trying to find the best 12, be like, oh, well, James Madison, all right, cool, over Notre Dame, that's tough.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame is the one that got shafted the most. I get why they got shafted, but they are definitely the better team. They're better than Alabama. They should be in, just based off who's better.
This is my hope for them, okay? I sincerely hope that for the rest of their days, that they aggressively push every door that's a pull, and that there's always someone there to see them do it. Suck.
Up, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is the Fake Momentum Podcast. This is the show where we overreact, argue, and obsess over Florida's big three college football teams. Florida State, Florida, and of course, the big winner of the day, Miami. Today's episode is all about the college football playoff bracket that dropped this afternoon. The field is set. Indiana's your number one. Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas have the byes. And the big headlines are Alabama and Miami is in. Notre Dame is out. So today we are going to discuss that bracket, talk about who got helped, who got robbed, and of course, most importantly for these guys, the fact that Miami's in. So let's get into it. First of all, guys, we're going to talk about the Canes, I promise. But let's just talk big picture first, because if I don't, you guys will rattle off like we're at Aventanita for about 4 hours and we'll never leave. So, simple question. The top four, did the committee get it right? Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas Tech. Rolly, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think I could have seen the Ohio State going to 3, flip Georgia being at number 2, but honestly, 1 through 4 is completely right. I agree with all of those. They deserve the buys. All good with me.
Agree with Rolly. 1 and 2. I think no matter what the outcome was of Ohio State and Indiana, those teams would be 1 and 2. They're both undefeated. They both look better than everybody else. So they got it right.
No, I agree. I think the top 4 is good. Shout out to my boy Heisman Doza, Columbus.
Heisman Doza. Yes, sir.
And Derek.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with them. At the end of the day, the only movers there that made any sense, Indiana, Ohio State. Indiana won, they're up. Biggest thing though is Indiana's definitely gets an easier matchup, I think, with Alabama, Oklahoma, instead of avoiding Miami. So good for them.
Sure.
Win the games that matter.
For sure. Looking at the big picture of the bracket, is there any big surprise for you guys as far as who did get in? Not talking about the Canes or Bama, more so like the James Madisons. Does that surprise you? Anything that really stuck out to any of you guys?
I think the one team that does not look at all like a playoff team outside of course, Alabama would be Oklahoma. They have not clicked on offense at all. Mateer's hurt. Clearly, they have one of the lowest ranked offenses of all the playoff teams. I think they're maybe a top 50 offense. So they weren't going to move because in their SEC, they didn't have to play an SEC championship game, and they have one big win over Bama, who we all think is not that good anyway. So I think they weren't going to move, but OU is not what everyone thinks.
Do you think that's the I know that they're only 1 seed higher than Bama, but do you look at that and say that's the matchup that you could see being the only real upset in this round, other than I assume you probably think Miami will, but any upsets that you guys see looming there in the first round?
I mean, besides us, I don't. I honestly think that Bama Oklahoma is kind of a wash game, and the way. Yeah, 8 and 9, obviously, but both are kind of reeling right now. Both aren't coming into the playoff on the hottest, best streak of their lives, of their seasons. So we got to see what happens for sure in our game. I love the matchup with A&M. I just think it's two of the, properly constructed teams, honestly. So I really like the matchups on both sides. I think it's going to be best on best in a lot of cases, and we'll see.
Derek, any thoughts?
No. So I mean, really, most of the drama was obviously Miami, Alabama, Notre Dame. We obviously kind of see how that shook out. We'll get more into that. The one thing that I am kind of surprised by, and I guess no one's really talking about, is Ole Miss and how there was really no movement with them. Obviously, what happened with FSU and Jordan Travis, which whatever I think personally, even as a Canes fan, is BS. But, their whole thing was you lose your quarterback, you're not as good, we're dropping you out. I know it's a 14 playoff compared to now, but they updated one of their principles based off of that, including missing head coach. And Lane Kiffin was this god of a head coach that everybody was literally writing blank checks to. This offensive mastermind, which that's what Ole Miss is kind of like patting their chest on. And really no movement. Now, I don't know necessarily who deserves to get over them or move up, like what that movement looks like, but I'm just kind of surprised that nothing was made of that.
They moved up. I mean, they even moved up a spot after in the immediate rankings after. So
I was just kind of surprised by that. I guess, like, I don't know, like, would this committee have kept FSU in? Like, I don't know.
I'll say this, and to the committee's defense, is that they love to throw around data points. As much as I hate that term, they love to throw it around.
They use different data points for each team, though. So
the data point was they got to see 2 games of FSU without Jordan Travis. With Ole Miss, they have it would be purely hypothetical of what they look like without Lane Kiffin. So that's in their defense. I get it. With that, at least I get it.
Yeah, I'm just surprised it was a little like.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Hey, no one is. I get it. I'm with you. I'm just saying.
We're still aggrieved.
I just think that's like really the only like drama you can find in like the top half, because just most of it was already kind of set in stone. And they're like, whatever, they'll talk to. But I don't know. I was just kind of surprised it wasn't a bigger deal. But I guess we'll see, man. I mean, they get Tulane, obviously, which is like a lucky draw. But once they get into the next round, we'll kind of see the Lane Kiffin effect. Like, well, are those players still like? How much is he really motivating them? How much does his play calling really matter? Like, we'll find out, man. We'll see if they deserve a spot or not.
This year,
you're saying, Derek, that you wanted them out, right? You're just saying that you're surprised that they didn't get dropped down. They didn't even take a nick at all from.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it was like an obvious thing where they should have been dropped out. I mean, obviously, there's a whole conversation of James Madison, Tulane. How much do they really deserve? Obviously, there's most likely going to be some sort of like changes there. I don't know what the right answer to that is, but maybe these teams got to be a minimum top 15 or something to like kind of qualify. But I'm just surprised it was like a complete non-factor considering how they treated FSU with Jordan Travis. They created a principle based off of what happened there. And one of the things in the principle says, changing of the head coach, and it just like became nothing. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of weird. Yeah, all I really care about is that we're in, so I care less.
The thing is that we all knew it was such bullshit that year that they did it to us, because we're like, the playoff expands next year and you're never going to have to use this again.
Correct.
Right? Like, it was just to fuck somebody in a 14 playoff. And I agree with you. I thought they would have taken a ding at least, but I'm glad they didn't leave him outright. To punish those kids for Lane being Lane would have been terrible. So I'm kind of excited to see what they do. And I other than if you have a team in the playoff, I feel like people might be pulling for Ole Miss, right? Like they might be America's team just by default of that. So I'm kind of excited to see how that goes.
Can we just all agree, though, like real quick, and just because the Ole Miss question, the Oklahoma questions, the fact that like there's these weekly rankings every week and they kind of settle some debates, don't settle others, then just say they're going to re-rank the whole thing at the end of it. It just causes such issues with, the constant questions about their thinking, about which data points are important this week, which are going to be important next week, which will matter by the end of the year. And it's like, the end product, they got it right, but just the whole show of it really made the committee look just completely inept. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And I think we'll talk about that in specific when we talk about you guys and your relationship with Notre Dame in those rankings. But I think the main thing that they do that for, Rolly, is so that they can justify their ends, right? They do all this shit for these other weeks, and that's their means of making these people these top 25 teams so that they can use it when they need to justify their weak teams at the end.
Why was Mizzou ranked for the entire year?
Exactly. For example. Now all those SEC teams have ranked wins over a team that shouldn't be ranked. So we'll definitely talk about that. So of those few first 4-ish teams that were out, right? Notre Dame, BYU, Texas, Vanderbilt. Who do you guys think got screwed the worst? To me, it's Notre Dame, but go ahead, Dirk, you first. Who do you think got screwed the hardest?
Well, in all honesty, as much as I love drinking Notre Dame tears right now, it's hard for me to, if we're trying to find the best 12 and line it up and get after it, it's hard for me to sit here and be like, oh, well, James Madison, all right, cool, over Notre Dame, that's tough. James Madison over Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia is going to be a Heisman, finalist. Like, that's tough too. I understand the criteria, not really, but I can kind of get behind it. I just feel like that's a tough pill to swallow for Notre Dame. I'm not worried about it though. Someone should check on those dudes that were coming after me the last time I was on the pod though, because what I said about them being ranked above us was bullshit, aged like fine wine, baby.
They'll show up. How do we feel about the bowl thing?
Yeah, I wish we would have done that when we got fucked in 23. So fuck it. I mean, what do bowl games really fucking matter? If it's not the playoff. Trent, who do you think got screwed the hardest? Is it Notre Dame for you too?
No doubt, Notre Dame. And like I think I told you, Ant, earlier, Notre Dame had the least compelling argument out of the three teams, Miami, Bama, Notre Dame, to make it. But at the end of the day, they're better than Alabama. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Bama, the last month and a half, has not looked like a good football team. They haven't won by more than a possession in any of those games, including the loss to Oklahoma, who I've already said is not a good offense. Yeah, I think Notre Dame is the one that got shafted the most. I get why they got shafted, but they are definitely the better team. They're better than Alabama. They should be in, just based off who's better. But there's criteria to everything, and there's money involved, and Notre Dame's not getting in over Alabama. So,
Rolly?
No, I agree. Notre Dame would be there. I was really impressed with Vandy coming in towards the end of the year as well. I think if the SEC was going to get 4, they obviously would want their strongest, 4 SEC members in. But the Bama brand and the Bama bias, it's different. And obviously we saw that they were already trying to protect Bama no matter what, with what they did on Tuesday with the flip after that Auburn game. Just a poor performance. Notre Dame had no reason to be jumped by Bama in that position. And if you want to put Bama ahead of them, then don't ever put them behind them. They had no reason to even be behind them probably from the start, just after that loss to the Oklahoma team. So, definitely Notre Dame, they're a good team, but they couldn't get in over us and they weren't going to get in over Bama.
Derek?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Notre Dame. They had a chance to beat Miami and they didn't, so they didn't get in.
That happened in real life, though, right? Not
head to head matters, baby. Head to head matters.
That happened.
Yeah.
Between the lines.
Hey, next time.
No, people were starting to forget that.
Next time, schedule James Madison. Next time, schedule Tulane. Let's settle it on the field.
1,000%. 1,000%. Even if it happens in August.
It still counts, even if it's week 1.
Still counts.
Bama beat Georgia in September.
Yeah. Except Bama, Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame was everything was starting to go away from week 1 mattering. It was ridiculous, man.
I want to give BYU just a minute from all of us. What do we think about the BYU thing? I know they're saying not to punish for conference championship games, but this was almost a win and you're in conference championship situation, not just a hey, you're there, you're one of the best teams in the country, we already know that. But it's tough. I mean, they lost to Texas Tech twice. Those are their only 2 losses, in the second's a conference championship game. I think a lot of other teams around the country would get more credit for that than BYU. And I'd rather see them in there than Bama. So, Rolly, what do you think about BYU and what happened with them?
I mean, if they performed in either of those games, at 2 different points of the season, I would definitely agree with you. But they just didn't, and they didn't. You stack up their resume without those games, kind of in a similar light to us. If we lose that Notre Dame game, we don't really have something to kind of hold up our resume with how it panned out for Florida State and for UF, to be all honest. So they needed to perform in that Texas Tech game, even if they were close losses. They would have been looked at differently, but by the end of it, putting their resume against those 4 or 5, pods, as they like to say, they wouldn't be able to compete without a win in that Big 12 title game. But it's sad. They had a good defense. It seemed like they were shooting themselves in the foot every single time I would look up at that game yesterday. I just felt like there was a fumble or an incomplete pass or a batted pass. Like they were getting killed by that D-line. So, it is what it is. They're out,
There's consequences to getting your ass kicked. I mean, and that's just it. But
unless you're Alabama,
them,
the SEC.
there's the goalposts are very different for Bama. Always, it's always going to be like that.
I think
Dirk's frozen.
Oh, you're back.
I think that people keep using the BYU getting penalized argument, Bama not being penalized. I don't think that's correct. BYU was never in the playoff. They had to win to get in. So by them losing and moving back a spot, they're not penalized. They weren't in but before the game started. So I don't necessarily agree with that argument. But And like Rolly said, they played two good teams all year, and it happened to be the same team twice, and they didn't show up to either one. Like, it's their own fault at the end of the day. Like, they were not competitive against the playoff team they played twice at any point. So they don't. I'm sorry. Like, you don't look like a playoff team. You shouldn't be in. The same goes for Alabama, but again, we're same circle. It's balanced. So
Yeah.
BYU hasn't looked the part.
So to piggyback off of what Trent said, because I do agree, I don't necessarily like it sucks that it was Bama because I don't think overall they should get in. But at the end of the day, they were in the tournament. They lost the conference championship. They shouldn't be kicked out. BYU was never in, which is 100% I agree. And at the end of the day, what's actually kind of funny is that there was all this talk about quality losses, quality losses, quality losses. Alabama got in because they have quality wins. Miami got in because they have quality wins over Notre Dame. BYU and Notre Dame had zero quality wins. Like, they had their chances up against playoff teams, and they lost, and they're out. So it's kind of funny now looking at all back. Like, I think the way the committee went about it was awful, and that's like a whole different conversation. Half those ADs, their schools suck anyway, so I don't know why they're on a committee choosing this. But, like, it's one of those things where it's like quality loss. But at the end of the day, what mattered was the wins, which is what should matter. And obviously, it's not just us biased because we made it in. Like, at the end of the day, we played a playoff team and we won. Notre Dame played two playoff teams. They lost both times. BYU played a playoff team twice. They lost both times. Like, Bama, I don't think they're that good, but they beat Georgia. Like, they won games against playoff quality opponents. Like, that's more deserving in my eyes. That's kind of how it played out.
So I think that's where you're just exactly in line with what Trent was saying, right? Because Trent was saying, look, if you're Notre Dame, you've got a great case because it feels like you got fucked, but you don't really have any good wins to bolster yourself, right? You have two great losses. Like, your losses can't get better. You lost to Miami, who's a playoff team, and you lost to Texas A&M, who's a playoff team, and you lost both of those games by a combined 4 points. But what did you do otherwise? You beat USC? Okay, cool, right? And that's where I guess you and Trent are both drawing that line, and you're saying, yeah, Bama lost to Florida State, and that's a joke, but they beat Georgia, they beat Auburn, like they beat, they had other wins here in the season that kind of bolstered them.
Yeah, they beat Vanderbilt. At the end of the day, you don't advance in the playoffs with a quality loss. You advance with a win. Like, the wins got to matter, man.
All right, so let's talk about that big one first before we get to you guys, right? Notre Dame, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but Notre Dame versus Bama, Notre Dame gets fucked by getting knocked out of the playoff here. I think it's interesting that they had you guys behind Notre Dame all these weeks. This is what you guys were talking about, process versus result. Your result is right. But talk to me about the process for you guys, because I know I talked to most of you independently, and you guys were freaking out over the last couple of weeks because you thought there was no way that this was going to happen. And now when you're both idle, the committee says, you know what? This is the week we're going to move you guys over Notre Dame. So starting with you, Rolly, talk to me about that. Obviously, the process was wrong, but the result was right. Talk to me about how nervous you were and, that whole aspect for you.
It was the worst emotional roller coaster I've been on in like a 3-week period, man. Because everything, obviously you want to close out the year. You want to end at 10 wins. You want to actually even put yourself in the position, to have the conversation or be in the conversation. And they finished out the year great. So, as soon as that pick game ends, as soon as you dominate them, given all the other results that were happening and everything, you feel pretty good about your chances. But then, the stupid little beauty pageant show comes out every Tuesday night and you see what their thinking is. And at no point, it kept getting closer and they kept saying more and more things about, the pod and the comparative pool and pulling out every single thing besides acknowledging the fact that there's two teams that ended with a 10-2 record that played each other on the field and one won, one didn't. Team A, Team B, take out the names, take out the brands. If you stack those two resumes, they didn't. And it just seemed like other results had to happen, of course, and they kept saying that and saying that. I think maybe in their heads, in the back of their minds, they knew if it had to come down to this at some point, if it was one spot for Miami Notre Dame, they knew what they had to do. I don't understand why they had to create the show and everything. I'm glad, the end somehow has to justify the means. But, I'm glad we're here for sure. And it was a hell of a few-week period. But now we're in, and that's all I wanted for this team because, I think we deserved it. I think we had a good enough year to do it, and I didn't want this season to be looked at as a complete waste, a complete failure on Mario's resume, because in all reality, he's got dogs on this team. That's why we're in the position in the first place. Let's put them against their dogs and let's see what happens.
Trent?
Like you said, there's a process, there's a result. Obviously, both of them were inconsistent of one another, and throughout the whole process, the whole mindset was, well, if they can stay consistent with the process, we're not going to make it. There's no chance. And it's probably the only thing that Joey Galloway has ever got correct is that it doesn't make sense for Miami to not have been flipped with Notre Dame prior, and now they get flipped after not playing. Yeah. I get it, and that's wrong. It's ultimately right, but the process itself is just it's wrong. I can understand why Miami was ranked as high as or as low as they were when the rankings first came out. They just lost 2 out of the last 3, including games that are both double-digit favorites. I can see why they would be ranked as low as they were, and the committee honestly probably thought that Miami was not going to win out at that point, be a top 10 team or a playoff team at that point. But after they won 4 straight games in dominant fashion, by the way, against all of those teams, almost all of them, Notre Dame played as well, and we beat by more. They didn't seem like they were creeping up enough, and Notre Dame wasn't going backwards. So they did the thing with Bama and Notre Dame on the last week for whatever reason. I don't know how that happens. But there was still a team in between, and it was just the process was terrible. They have to find another way to do it. I was 99% sure this morning when I woke up that Miami would not be a playoff team, just because of how everything has played out this year and previous years. The committee loves to find a way to just not make the correct decisions. Thank the Lord that they did this time around, but the whole process leading up to it was wrong and inconsistent. Yeah. So I can see why a team like Notre Dame would be so upset, because had they stayed consistent, Notre Dame would be in the playoff.
Trent, do you think they were just going to create the buffer again? Did you think going into today that they would just put Bama in between,
Bama's right? 10, and because Bama's 10, and for whatever reason, since there's a team there, you're not allowed to compare Notre Dame and Miami. It took them to be neck and neck to be compared directly, which makes absolutely zero sense. But it just happened to be that way this time because BYU lost, and they didn't feel like they had to penalize Bama at all, not even a spot, which also makes no sense. So the process was wrong, and the math equation was wrong, but they still put the right answer at the end of the equation. That's literally what happened.
I thought that's why they flipped Bama and Notre Dame last week, so that if Bama did lose, they could just flip them back and say, "Hey, look, this is still
100%
here." All right, Derek, talk to me about how you felt when the Canes, that number 10 came up, and you saw that they flipped you finally with Notre Dame, and the results of the process versus the end result.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely surprised just because, like I was saying earlier, everything was quality losses, quality loss, quality loss. They weren't taking in these wins to account, and it kind of feels like at the end they kind of all came to their senses and were like, okay, the wins actually matter. Notre Dame kind of just got a tough draw there. I don't, like Trent said, like it's kind of crazy that we got flipped not playing, but at the end of the day, I think they got it right. The whole process is kind of weird. I mean, at the end of the day, like it just kind of feels like they're just making it up on the fly. Then they just go on Twitter and they see us complaining about it, and they're just like, yeah, that guy's right. I mean, let's go change that next week. Like, it just kind of feels like they're winging it. Like, it feels like it's us in a room just, like, talking crap. Honestly.
They're winging it. They are winging it.
Yeah, like, they have no idea what they're doing. And it's just the inconsistencies of it. It's a little frustrating. So, yeah, and just based off of, the history of our school and the way things just go for us, things rarely work out. But I'm glad they got it right. And also, kind of how the ACC has become a giant joke. I kind of just felt, I was like, they're not going to respect us as an ACC. It truly felt like they were just going to be happy leaving an ACC team out once Virginia lost. I thought that was more likely to happen but maybe this guy Phillips or whatever wrote his check to the committee and told him get someone in. But I doubt it because that guy sucks. Yeah, not too confident. But I think he got it right at the end of the day.
All right, and we'll talk about some things with the ACC and the clown show that it is briefly. But Dirk, I want to give you your shot here to talk to me about the process versus the result, how you felt these last couple of weeks. And I know ultimately you felt they got it right, but talk to us about it.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of a couple of things that were said. One, I never had a doubt. I always knew we were going to be in. So whoever stole my phone and was texting you, like they were going to jump off a bridge, I don't know who that was. Two, talking about Joey Galloway, and I'll throw Heather Dinich into that.
Both
This
of
is
them.
my hope for them, okay? I sincerely hope that for the rest of their days that they aggressively push every door that's a pull and that there's always someone there to see them do it forever. They suck. And then to address the committee, leading up to Selection Sunday and all the rankings that happened before the Pitt game, it's almost like they ranked us expecting us to drop that Pitt game. So, I think there's too much subjectivity in these rankings rather than just straight up, being objective about things. I think the system is somewhat broken. I like the idea of the playoff itself. I think 12 teams is a good field. I don't know how you fix it. I'm not paid, it's above my pay grade to figure that out, but I think that there needs to be more objective system in place for that.
And the group of 5 discussion definitely has to be had this year. Like somehow it needs to change. They can't just get auto bids because there's 3 or 4 teams in there that definitely deserve that spot way over those 2 teams.
I definitely think we can all agree that as soon as Miami beat Pitt convincingly, the entire committee went, oh.
100%.
Fact. They were banking on it not happening.
I'm surprised they didn't flip you guys then.
Yeah.
They should have.
They should have.
They expected Mario to lose in November or December.
I mean, probably so did 5 people on this Zoom screen right here, right?
Easy.
All of us probably thought
Easy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So before we talk ACC as a whole, I want one-word answers from each of you on this, okay? When the U comes up on the screen and you see the 10 on there and you're in, one word, is it relief? Is it shock? Is it ecstatic? What is it? Derek, one word. What is the one word you felt right then?
Relieved. It was relieved.
Relief?
Game time.
Okay. That's like a hyphen, right? Or is that one word? I'm not sure, but we'll let it go. Rolly, one word.
Justice. Like, for real. Like, for real, man. The results matter. Like, I was on the verge of thinking my favorite sport was dead. I would never look at it the same. Miami's in. Justice happened today. The right thing happened. I'm ecstatic.
Justice. I like it. Trent?
Faith in humanity has been restored.
Legitimately, man.
Faith in humanity.
There are a couple dark.
Pull it all together, bro. You're good.
All right, so let's talk about the shit show that's the ACC. Obviously, there's the ACC championship last night. Virginia throws up all over themselves like they have towards the end of the season in these last few games. Obviously, Duke wins. Your boy Manny wins an ACC title before the University of Miami, but he does not get into the playoff before the University of Miami. The ACC champ is left outside. So what do you guys think about what that means? Does it just make our conference look fucking worse? Like, I
1,000%.
Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I just think at this point, the ACC is just a kind of a joke. I know there's some schools out there that pride themselves on winning ACC championships only, and that's their top goal. And at the end of the day, it's just going to get you a 10-year extension to your head coach, and congratulations.
Purgatory, Florida State. Purgatory.
It's just become like it's just in all seriousness though. Like now, I'm like FSU and Clemson should sue them again. Like for real. I think it's an absolute joke that you have these convoluted tiebreaker rules that literally do not barely affect like your actual play on the field, and then you have a Duke team get in. Which don't get me wrong, Miami should have beat SMU, we should have beat Louisville at the end of the day. We didn't control our own destiny. That's a whole different conversation. But the fact that you have these crazy rules that doesn't get your best team into the actual conference championship game, and then the supposed best team that was playing there lost, and then the other team doesn't get it's a joke. Like it's an absolute joke, and they should get sued again, honestly. And we have a commissioner that didn't even say a single word. There's obviously the whole conspiracy about him being a Chicago Catholic, kids in Notre Dame, the whole thing. And at the end of the day, I know they would have just supported Notre Dame because they don't care about the actual people in their conference. So I hope they get sued again. That's what I think about them.
They would have supported Notre Dame as a half.
They probably would have. They probably would have.
Of course they would have.
It's absurd. I'll give the ACC like network a little credit. I'll give them officials with the replaying of the game since Tuesday at like 5 in the morning. Love that. It seemed that the committee didn't actually watch that game back until probably the last 24, 48 hours, which is absurd to me, given what the main debate should have been for the last month. But
Yeah.
at least they watched it. Finally, again.
Their social media accounts too have been pushing.
Nah, they've been pushing. They were pushing
graphics every single day.
for sure.
The ACC as a collection of teams, I think, is actually better than some may think. I think the ACC, in terms of the competitive nature of the ACC, is better than the Big 12, for example. I think that the middle teams of the ACC, everyone beats everyone. Like, that's why you saw a 10-team tiebreaker to get into the ACC championship this year. Everyone just beats everyone, and I think there's a lot of quality teams. Pitt, NC State, I guess, depending on who they play. SMU, even Louisville, like these teams are good, and they've shown they can beat big teams. So I think the ACC, as a collection of teams, is actually a legit conference. It's just run by morons. The refereeing is the worst refereeing in the country. It's not even close. Thank God they gave us this new transparency with letting us all watch the replays.
But that doesn't even matter.
They still got it wrong. They got one wrong on that.
They still get it wrong. But so it lets us know we're allowed to see how stupid they actually are in the booth. They're terrible.
Dude, the catch.
Your tiebreakers. They do not know how to run a conference.
That was absurd.
It is an absolute joke. I want Miami to get out. I wanted them to stay in because I like the compilation of teams, but it's run by monkeys. They're idiots. They have no idea what they're doing. So we have to get out. Everyone needs to get out. All the big teams need to get out, and because it's a joke at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
Dirk, any thoughts on the league?
Yeah, no, I agree with every single thing that Trent just said. So it's competitive as far as, the play on the field. I think the refs kind of have this reputation, not just in the ACC, but in the entire country, because you'll see it come up during bowl season, when the ACC officials kind of take their show on the road. But the way that the conference is run is an absolute joke. And it's almost like hard to understand what really matters to them. Is it the product on the field? Is it just, the tiebreaker itself was an absolute farce, and the entire country was laughing at the ACC. So, outside of, Miami fans pushing for Miami to get in, nobody wanted an ACC team in.
Nope.
Correct.
And they rewarded the ref that obviously cost us the SMU game by letting him coach the biggest ACC game of the year. So it's like, oh, you did terrible on the field. Well, guess what? You're going to the championship. Congrats.
They'll probably give him a raise, too.
Yeah, probably. Stupid.
Do you guys think that Duke, as the winner of a Power 4 conference, should have gotten into the playoff over JMU?
No.
No way. They have 5 losses. They have horrific losses, too. And they lost to one of those teams that's in that 11th spot. They lost to Tulane. They have a terrible spot. Terrible loss against UConn. Yeah, so they never had a business.
Is significantly better than Duke. I think Duke sucks, and they have a clown for head coach.
Hey man, and Manny spoke for us. I'll give Manny a little bit of props. At least he spoke for us.
Yeah, we're still paying him probably.
You probably are.
He's on
If
payroll.
Manny's the next coach of Florida State, like Dirk said, I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna take Rolly's hat. And I'm gonna.
There we go. Come on board, Ant. Let's go, man.
Jesus. All right. So let's talk about the Canes. Obviously, making it in. Let's talk about it from a pressure / accomplishment standpoint. Is the season a success just by virtue of making the playoffs? Number one, that's the first question. And number two, how much pressure is on Mario to actually do something now that you've actually made the field, or do you think it's off just by virtue of making it? Dirk, you first.
That's a hard one to answer, right? For the last 20 years, we've been dreaming of being in this position, right? But just seeing where we are with the talent that we have on the field, seeing what these kids are capable of doing right now, it seems like we're playing our best football. So my head tells me, yeah, it's been successful. We made the playoff, but my heart tells me we didn't come this far to come this far. I look at that matchup with A&M. I like us. We get past A&M, we go to, play Ohio State. I like us. You look at those 12 teams in the playoffs, I like us. Just this first round isn't success for me. Not yet.
Go ahead, Trent. It looks like you got some stuff to say.
I agree with most of that. I think that, like you said, I mean, before the season, if anyone thought we'd be in the playoff, we would all say it's a success. But now seeing the product on the field, knowing how talented they actually are, we know what they're capable of doing. I'm not going to say that means winning a national championship because we all know how just really difficult that is, especially considering the top teams in the country. But that doesn't mean that they can come out and Mario can drop a goose egg and they just get embarrassed by Texas A&M. To me, that would be a huge disappointment. We want them essentially just to live up to their capabilities. Texas A&M's a good team. Like Dirk said, I think that that's a game that we can win. Getting to Ohio State, that's a little different of a story. At least against Texas A&M.
I like us, baby.
That's a game that we can win. It's going to be tough. It's obviously at College Station, but we know what we're capable of doing. And like Dirk said, we are currently playing our best ball. Mainly because Malachi Tony's getting 20-plus touches a game. So
1,000%. He needs to have 25 touches.
Right. So it
doesn't matter.
20 passes too, but that's another story. But I think ultimately making the playoff, yes, it's huge for us. It's a big deal, especially where we've come from. But we're not finished yet. We know what the team can do, and at the end of the day, there are still expectations.
Go ahead, Derek.
Yes, I mean, 10 wins 2 years in a row. Top 10 recruiting class. We made the playoffs. We have a great foundation on this with young guys in this team that we can build towards. We've shown once again that you can come be a quarterback and vault your draft stock. So 100% this season is a success. Oh, we own the state of Florida. Our rivals are nowhere near us. So yeah, it's 100% a success. Now, there is some pressure to not lay the egg. And I think the biggest pressure when it comes to just as a public perception, rival perception, whole thing is Mario gets so much crap for never adjusting, for playing conservative stuff. And what's kind of gotten us to this point in these last few games on the road is opening it up, being a little bit more up tempo, passing it more, running to the outside, all that stuff. So is Mario now going to get into this big moment and revert back to what he does before? I think that's where the pressure is. I think if Mario plays to his guns, if we keep it open, let Shannon Dawson call his offense, let Malachi Tony throw 3 passes, do the whole thing, and we lose, close, obviously, I can live with that. It's still success. I'm happy with it. But if we just kind of revert to who everyone thought we were, and then now the conversation starts saying, oh, why do we let him in just for this? I feel like going into next season, it kind of brings a negative taste to the season, and you can kind of see it as a failure. I think overall, though, it's a success, but we gotta show up, and I think we have a chance, man. We're good.
There's two things. No matter what, we're gonna play this game against Texas A&M. The question will always be, one of the questions will always be, what would Notre Dame have done in this game? If we lose, the question, no matter what, around the country will be, would Notre Dame have won this game? That's one. Number two, why it's important that not only do we compete but win the game is because we want to start laying the foundation the same way that Notre Dame always gets the benefit of the doubt to make these playoff games because they're Notre Dame and they're always great. Yeah. We have to start winning these games because we want that benefit of the doubt. So, Miami's a big-time program. They win playoff games.
If they get in, they can get hot. They can make a run.
So that's why this first game is important, because we need to tell everyone, including the committee, that Miami is legit even when they get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's all about the perception.
And I think we know what Notre Dame would have done in this game because they already played this game.
So the Notre Dame Muse account, which is one of the most realistic Notre Dame accounts I've seen, to put a screenshot of the A&M Miami matchup.
The Notre Dame Bowl.
Damn, if only we would handle both of these teams.
Yeah, they'd be in. And you know what? They did get a lot of benefit of the doubt for making a national championship last year. Kudos to them. That honestly, because of that game last year, is the only reason they're even in this conversation. At the end of the day, you look at the people they beat, and they didn't beat anyone. And they're
Notre Dame.
That's why they started off the rankings.
It's the brand.
They had 2 losses when the first rankings came out. They're number 10 already. Because
do you guys think that this might kind of force their hand and say, hey, look, you guys have been doing this independent shit for a while. If you join a conference, you'd be in a conference championship. Well, I guess look at Miami. They were 10-2 and weren't in it. But do you think this pushes them towards actually joining a conference? Or
Not with that clause thing that we were talking about off camera. If that clause thing is real,
they get written benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So that I don't see Notre Dame doing it.
Notre Dame doesn't have to do it. They still don't have to do it. The rules are different for them for sure, and we saw it. They almost snuck in against the team that they lost to. So I definitely don't think Notre Dame has to do it. I still think they're in a driver's seat every year to the playoff, honestly.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Until they play Miami.
Until they play Miami. November 7th next year.
So then I guess I know the answer based on all of your answers to that previous question. But, there's a thing every year, right, where everyone asks, is this the year that the U is back?
Until
is
number
the
6.
U back just by virtue of making the playoff?
Not until number 6 is in the rafters. Always.
That's when the U is back.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we have a chance to put it in the rafters for the first time in 20 years. We got to be happy about that. So,
I mean, I think there's an argument to be made if we make the game. We either got to win it or we got to stack together like 4, 5, 6 years of like this, like making the playoffs, all that stuff.
competing
like,
for it.
becoming relevant again.
There's
like,
always competing.
Like, because it's we've had flashes in the pan. We had 2017 where it's like, oh my God, Paul Feinbaum's throwing around the freaking chain and stuff. Even last year, but like last year happened, and then after SMU Louisville, it was like, oh, same old you. Like they can't have sustained success. So we either need to win it or we gotta stack some years.
For sure.
All right. Let's talk about your matchup versus A&M. What is your biggest worry going into that game? And then what is your biggest confidence? What is the biggest strength that you think Miami has against the Aggies? So biggest weakness and biggest strength. Rolly, you first.
Man, I think both D-lines are the strong points of both these teams. I know I saw our O-line, against very good D-lines throughout the year a couple times, probably Notre Dame being, the number one against as far as a defensive unit. A&M, I think, is different. I think they're built more like us, along the trench line, especially at the defensive line position. So I just want to see those matchups. Now, on the flip side, I also believe, they haven't seen as good of an offensive line as our offensive line. I mean, they face Notre Dame, of course, and they've obviously faced some SEC opponents along the way. But I do think our trenches are, a different animal from what they've faced this year. So I'm interested in see that. I got to do a deep dive into the Marcel Reed kid, into the playmakers. I know they got playmakers all over that. I know they're a pretty complete team. But I also think Elko and Cristobal are kind of, cut from the same cloth. They do kind of lean on that power running, that, run down your face, our guys are bigger than yours type of mindset. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, and, we got to see. We'll see.
Derek?
Yeah, I mean, I think the two things that scare me the most with Texas A&M is one, the pass rush. I mean, obviously, I'll take our line up against anyone, but we've seen in the past where Beck gets pressured, and that can be a problem. So I think a lot of like wildcat, a lot of outside runs, like establishing the run early to kind of like slow them down and be big. Maybe we might throw a halfback screen. Maybe we haven't seen one all year. And I think for them on offense, it's going to be Marcel reading his legs. I mean, Virginia Tech sneakily kind of exposed us a little bit with kind of running like a little like makeshift Georgia Tech like wildcat type of offense, especially with drones. Like if Marcel Reed is running and their running backs are running, it could be a problem. But he's very susceptible. If we keep him in the pocket and he's going to try to throw his way to win, like that's where we can eat him alive. It shouldn't be too close. So we're stopping their pass rush because I think our running game could have like an advantage there, especially going on like their DNs are kind of like smaller, they're like a little quicker pass rush guys. But we got to contain Marcel Reed from running, let him pass because he's shown that when he passes against Texas, he throws interceptions. And protect Beck. If we're protecting Beck, if we actually get protection, I think we can pick them apart. I think Malachi will completely destroy them.
Dirk?
So biggest strength, I think it's obvious, and Rolly hit it. It's in the trenches. I like our D-line. I feel like Bain and Mesidor, number 1 and number 2 as far as defensive ends in the country. Our D-line versus anyone, I definitely like that. I think keeping Marcel Reed from running all over us, so a guy like, Mo Toure comes to mind, trying to kind of spy and contain Reed. I do like our matchup on defense. Now, my biggest fear isn't necessarily the bad Beck game or excuse me. My biggest fear is Mario being Mario and reverting back to the mean. The halfback dive up the middle and just not being aggressive. Beck has shown that if you trust him and you protect him, he'll make the right play. Just do that.
Put the ball in Madley's hands 20 times. I mean, that has to happen. That's pretty essential. Yeah.
Trent?
In response to the Mario thing, that would have been a big fear of mine, but the last 4 games have really proved me differently. It's a brand new offense, and I'd be very shocked to see him absolutely revert what they've been doing on offense. I still expect to see some jet sweeps, motions, just stuff we weren't doing earlier in the season. I'd say the biggest strength, like he said, is the trenches. It's hard to say that for any game we play. It's going to be the offensive line, the defensive line. Miami hasn't played an offense and defensive line like this since Notre Dame. But look how well they did against Notre Dame.
Correct.
They snubbed Notre Dame, and even Florida had a pretty good defensive line. They had no answer for Miami offensive line. So I think the trenches are always Miami's strength. The one weakness, normally I would say a mobile quarterback historically is a weakness for Miami, but we've been pretty good against mobile QBs this year. They kind of shut down Byron Brown, who's probably the best mobile quarterback in the country. And then Drones had to make some Superman plays at certain moments to just gain yards. But I think probably the biggest weakness, if any, will be our DBs versus their receivers. I've seen some lapses out of our DBs in coverage specifically. And they have some talented receivers, Casey Concepcion, who we're all familiar with because he's from the ACC. But I think that if there's a weakness, it's going to be their wide receivers against our DBs. There was a couple plays against Pitt where they were able to get downfield, just absolute lapses in coverage. We've seen it all year. There's been some injuries. We're hoping Keontae Scott is back. We're hoping OJ Frederick is back. But that's probably the one area that concerns me.
All right. And last thing on this, quickly, a prediction and a confidence rating 1 to 10 in that prediction. We'll go reverse order that we just did. Trent, give me a prediction. And
like score or who wins?
Hey, if you feel good enough to do a score, I know I'm doing it, on the spot here. You don't have to, but
I'm not gonna do score. I'm gonna do Miami to win with a confidence of 5.
Like us, 8.
Derek?
Yeah, I think Miami wins. Like a 7.
And Rolly?
Miami to win by a field goal or less, probably like a 7.
No surprises there from all of you guys. I think Miami, like you guys said, right? I think it comes down to protecting Carson Beck, plain and simple.
That's actually. Sorry to cut you off. That was one point I did
please.
want to make because he said that if you protect Beck, then he's you can trust him. That I don't think that's true. Beck was pretty well protected in Louisville, and he made some bad decisions. And at the end of the day, that's what you give Carson Beck. He'll have
Forget the bad game.
Has bad games, and he makes mistakes. It's a matter of overcoming that. We just gotta hope that he doesn't have any more of those bad games, and he got those out of the system. I don't think he's played a game like Louisville since. That was by far his worst game of the year. Maybe his only bad game.
It was. Not even SMU he played bad. He threw for 270, 2 touchdowns.
But it could happen even with protection just because it's in his nature. It happens sometimes. So we just got to hope he got it out.
Even with protection for sure, and this is something that I was going to bring up that none of you guys really touched on, and it's Mike Elko. Mike Elko's got 2 weeks to sit here and game plan, and I know you guys feel really good about your defensive coordinator and the things you guys have done on defense this year, but Carson would worry me if I were a Hurricane fan because he is either really, really good, or if he's really bad, like that's as it is with most teams, right? Like if your quarterback's playing bad, you're not going to have a chance. And I think Mike Elko can take these 2 weeks to design some things and have Carson confused. But that's also the benefit that you paid for with Carson is he's seen a lot, and he's seen a lot of really good defenses in his time in the SEC. So I think that's what it's going to come down to is him keeping him upright, and is he seeing the clear picture? What are they showing him pre-snap, and then what is he seeing post-snap, and is he recognizing the difference? Go ahead, Trent.
I think the counter to that is that enter Malachi Tony. Before, especially during Louisville, Tony was pretty much just a receiver at that point. Now, if Beck is having truly another bad game, we can take the ball out of his hands. We can either give it to Tony. We're not just going to run it up the middle like we did against Louisville, and that was our fallback option, which didn't work. Now it's jet sweep, wildcat, a pitch and a pass, a double pass, whatever. There's more variation to the offense now. So it's not just, Beck's not throwing it well, we can fall back on our halfback dive. Now we can get it to our players in space and have more of a creative offense. Now, who knows if what's going to happen to this game, but the offense from week 7 or whatever till week now is like
completely different.
So it's hard for me. Like, yes, of course, Elko is a great defensive mind and he's going to prep the shit out of this game. But let me tell you something about Corey Heatherman. That guy has come to play every single team. Pitt worried the shit out of me. And we were so prepared in that game. They looked like that defense looked just unstoppable and elite. Mason Ancho, who had had success all year long, just was stonewalled. He really couldn't do anything in that game. And the run game did not. I think they had 30 rushing yards. I don't know, something crazy. But I think Heatherman should deserve the same respect that Elko gets.
I completely agree with Heatherman. I think he's been great for you guys this year, and I hope someone comes and hires him really fucking quickly.
Yeah, I think there was a question like earlier in the year, like Heatherman or Tony White. That was like a question.
I think that's an easy answer.
Well, our good friend Jordan said that he'd rather have Danzy over Malachi Tony.
He did say that.
FSU game.
Yeah. I mean, Danzy's great, but
he's good. No, I like Danzy.
You cannot argue what Malachi's done for you guys. Even in the games that you guys didn't want to give him the ball, he said, "I'm going to catch this fucking punt and I'm going to do something here." So shout out to that kid, bro.
Hey, look out for that. He might finally break one.
Yeah,
he hasn't had one.
Let's see if he can reclassify again and just go to the NFL like after next year or something. Because I'm seeing him in orange and green. To be honest with you. All right, last thing, boys, before I let you go. One thing we can all laugh at is the Florida Gators. All year, all our boys are on here talking about hop on the lane train, this and that. It's the best job.
Oh,
Is
God.
it going to be Marcus Freeman? Is it going to be Lane Kiffin? Is it going to be Nick Saban? Is it going to be God himself? Now we know it's John Sumrall, a huge home run hire. I actually don't mind the hire, but I know Florida fans hate it. So just give me, boys, a quick 30-second reaction. How funny is it to laugh at the Gators missing on their first swing again and then getting another group of 5 coach like Sunbelt Billy? So just go ahead, just rapid fire, guys. Talk to me about it. How do we feel about it?
I'm so happy for them. It couldn't happen to such a better program and a better fan base. You know what? Blessings, nothing but blessings coming their way.
Amen.
Yeah. Joke. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I feel bad. Summerall's not bad. I think he'll actually be fine. But I just think it kind of brings me back to the thing that could potentially, bring you back or kind of change the trajectory of this program was getting rid of Blake James. And after hearing that Lane Kiffin essentially just didn't want to work with Strickland, they chose their AD over their football program, kind of like how Miami was doing for a very long time. And once we made that change, like Mario didn't want to work with Blake James. The guy was a loser. Like people don't want to work for Strickland. So now there's no reason they shouldn't have gotten Lane Kiffin. It's just like there's no reason. But good for them, man. They're gonna suck.
I'm with you, and I actually think that they should give him some cut G5 Summy some slack because he came from Tulane. He didn't come from Louisiana. Like I think it's just different with Summerall, and I think that he deserves a chance. But it's hilarious to see them melt down again because they were like Lane or Franklin or Signetti or Marcus Freeman.
Signetti.
Marcus Freeman was
who do you guys think you are? Like you think you're Ohio State of the South. It's just like they have the most unreasonable expectations of themselves. Like their egos are so high. Like Tim Tebow's not walking through that door, dog. Like it's not the same. So it's hilarious to see them melt down. They deserve to melt down because they're one of the worst fan bases in football. But I think Summerall is actually a decent hire.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine, but that's about it.
I would have been terrified if
didn't see
Lane
what
was
the
the coach.
betting odds
But
were.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I didn't want Lane there. I didn't see what the betting odds were, but did Aaron Hernandez have better odds to coach the Gators than Nick Saban? Someone check me on that.
Rolly, any final thoughts on Summerall?
No, Summerall's a good hire. I mean, my brother and my dad are both Gators. They're actually pretty stoked about the hire. Obviously, I agree with you. Trent is different coming from Tulane and what he's built over there as well. He's definitely a winning coach, so give him a chance. But at the end of the day, it's another Group of 5 name. It's not a name for Florida. But I love the swing and miss on Lane.
Don't we all? All right, boys, that's where we're going to end today's episode. Thank you all so much, even though you guys all harassed me to do this episode. Not the other
We needed it. Emergency, baby.
Let's see how it goes December 21st.
Thank you, Anthony.
Begging you guys to get on here
It's
that
10.
you don't want to do it. So we'll be back end of December to react to the first round of the playoffs. Thank you, boys. Appreciate your time.
Thanks,
Later,
man.
boys.